We're going to go through a lot of information today and some explanations. It's a bit complex and nuanced, but we also have our teachers here with us with whom you can talk to hear about their day-to-day, as well as we have our architects from DLR, Jason Mayring and Christy, and you can talk to them about the design and the space issues that we have. We also have our administrators, with whom Mr. Abe Singh, with whom you can talk about financial and any specifics that you might want to have, or any other regarding any other educational pieces that, So we have everybody here who can answer all your questions to our best of, and even if we can't answer some questions or we don't have slides or information to show you, if you could leave your name and email, we'll make sure that we get back to you with all the information.
Mine came off, I'm sorry.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Or you can use this one too.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you. So, okay, we'll show you the current enrollment and projections. We will show you our space and programming constraints. We'll show you our EFMP plans, which are Educational Facilities Master Plan for the next 10 years. And we'll show you the financial health of our district. The EFMP plans were put together after hours of work by the community members, teachers, our architects from the DLR group. These plans are fiscally and address our space and programming. We need your help in finding a solution that best meets the needs of all our students and the vision of the community that you have. We want to hear what you have to say, so any ideas that you might have to make this work or to solve our space constraints is welcome. The plan that we are putting through is the plan that came about after a lot of work, but that is not necessarily the plan. It is a good starting point. That is the best plan we have. But any ideas, modifications that you might have that you think would work, please send them our way, and we will vet them out if they have already not been vetted out, because there have been a lot of plans that have already. So let's start. This is the history of our buildings. As you can see, the year they were built and the additions we have made on them. Middle North is the oldest building, built in 1975, and has not had any additions. Town Line is the newest building, built in 2005, and it's still 13 years old. This is important given the age of the buildings. All these buildings need work. Part of the work done by DLR was to assess the health, life, safety, which is the conditions of the building, the mechanicals. They check the lighting, air quality, and compliance to code, such as ADA, amongst others. All of them need some amount of work. The next 3 slides talk about the building capacity and enrollment trends. This is the educational capacity of the building. Aspen has 3 sections per grade, 6 grades, K through 5, so 18 classrooms. At 25:1 ratio, the educational capacity of the building is 450. The first bar in the blue shows you the capacity, and each subsequent bar shows you the enrollment starting from 2013 to 14 onwards. The last bar in the green is our current enrollment of the number of students right now. So Aspen has a capacity of 450, and the enrollment right now is 489. Elementary South capacity is 750, and the enrollment is 766. Elementary North, the capacity is 600, the enrollment is 538. Town Line, the capacity is 450, and the enrollment is 473. Middle North, capacity is 650, the enrollment is 676. Middle South, the capacity is 775, the enrollment is 752. As you can see, most of our buildings are over capacity, just in numbers, and we haven't even talked about the programming needs of the student. All our schools have made adjustments, and here are our principals telling you their reality.
So at Town Line, we do have some issues with space. First of all, for the past 3 years, we've had our enrichment teacher, Mrs. Schmidt, teaching enrichment classes for 4th and 5th grade on the stage. That does impact Townline and Dual Language Chorus. Unfortunately, they're not able to put on their productions for musicals twice a year. They have to find other ways to perform. We do have some issues also with ELL Russian bilingual students. We have a lot more of them, so we have to service them appropriately. We do have up to 10 students in a very small office space, which is hard to teach with 10 students in a very small area. That's a struggle as well. And lastly, we do have Art in the Cart, and does impact Townline and Dual Language. Mrs. Smith, because she doesn't have her own art room, has to move from room to room and floor to floor to make sure she...
At Hawthorne Middle School North, our space issues have been in physical education, where for the past 3 years we've discussed the issues in regards to space, with physical education being in the cafeteria, physical education taking place in the cafeteria during the 3 various lunch periods, in the hallways, in the fitness room, as well as in the gymnasium, where would be appropriate place for physical education. In the area of the arts, we have well over 400 kids in band, orchestra, and choir. We're pretty packed in those performance areas for band, orchestra, and choir. There's a lot of children. We're very proud and always ecstatic about the number of kids in band, orchestra, and choir. It's something that is in our strategic plan. It's something we celebrate as a district. I mean, absolutely, it's been the same space issues we've talked about for years, either with our architectural firm or at board meetings or presentations. That really hasn't changed those past couple of years. Other areas of concern have been our class sizes. As to date, in February 2018, we've had 52 move-ins since the beginning of the school year. Every week we get more students moving in and are scheduled to be in our various classes at Hawthorne Middle School North. We have classes well into the 30s. We have various advanced classes in English and mathematics at the 8th grade level. We're at 35, 36. So one of our concerns right now that we've clearly expressed is our classroom sizes.
At Aspen School, we have a few space concerns that still exist after reorganization. The first one really is our cafeteria and its proximity to the band and orchestra room. We no longer have a dedicated space for students to have lessons throughout the course of the day, so they participate in lessons on the stage. That stage is right next to the cafeteria. So from the hours of 10 o'clock until 12 o'clock, students in their band or orchestra lessons are hearing all of the noise from the cafeteria. The cafeteria itself has to house more students than normal when we have first and second grade eating together. That was a change that happened with the addition of full-day kindergarten. When all of those students are in together, we are pressed to have enough space for all of them to sit. We also run into issues with getting all of the students through the food line in an appropriate amount of time so they have enough time to eat. In addition to that, we have issues and concerns with our library space. The design itself is difficult and was traditionally and originally built so that we could have a computer lab, workspace for students, and a reading room where the librarian could meet with full classes of students to introduce new literature to them. Since the change in reorganization, we had to take some of that space back so that we had enough office area for ELL and bilingual. The end result is that students no longer have a reading space and need to sit on the floor between computers so that they can listen to new information from the librarian. We also continue to have Elementary South join us every day for PE classes in our multi-purpose room. We're happy to be able to provide that space, but it could be utilized differently so that we would have additional health space, more space for up to 5 sections at 5th grade to have PE classes. Finally, we converted several work areas for teachers into office spaces so that we could have enough small areas for groups of students to receive interventions and support throughout the course of the day. The end result is there is truly no workroom for our teachers. They've done a nice job figuring out how to work around that, but we'd love to have that space back.
Middle School South has faced space challenges over the last several years. Specifically, we have 54 more students this school year than we did 3 years ago. Looking specifically at our space issues, our cafeteria is a high needs area. We do not have the capacity right now for our lunch periods, and with growing enrollment, that's going to continue to present issues for us. Additionally, the cafeteria doubles as our choir space, so all of our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade choir students have that class in the cafeteria on a daily basis. Our PE classes have had to take place in hallways. This specifically presents a challenge when we're dismissing from lunch and PE classes are happening in the hallways. Our 6th grade classes are large, with more students anticipated to be here. We have several class sections that are over 30 currently. Mrs. Ray, one of our writing teachers, is teaching out of our resource center and not in a classroom. If you walk our building here at Middle School South, you will notice that we have physical education as well as music equipment in the hallways for a lack of storage space. Finally, we have several science classes in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that are taking place in non-science classroom designed classrooms. Without any new space, we will continue to face challenges here at Middle School South, and that will have an impact on programming as well as our students' experiences.
Hi, and welcome to Elementary South. We too are having some space issues here at Elementary South. We house 750 to 780 children. That number fluctuates throughout the school year. We have 5 or 6 classes of every grade level, and with 32 homerooms, traveling to specials makes it difficult. Some of the things that we've had to accommodate because of space are having a mobile classroom. For the past 2 years, we have art and health out in the mobiles. Also, we have music on the stage. Now, music on the stage is also adjacent to the gym space, so they're fighting for sound all the time. Also, we have band and orchestra lessons in our old kitchen, which you'll see on the video. The orchestra large group lessons play in the morning in the same room as the cafeteria, so breakfast is going on with large group orchestra in the morning, and band is going on in the gym adjacent to HAP daycare, so they are also fighting for noise in the morning. Additionally, we have only one main hallway here at Elementary South, so during our lunch hour, we travel approximately 300 kids down the one main hallway to get in and out of the cafeteria. In addition to that, we have gym classes that go over to Aspen for PE, and we also have 3 or 4 gym classes that share one gym space. So as you can see, Elementary South is tight on space.
Hi, we have a few places at Elementary North where we are feeling the crunch of having increased enrollment and smaller space. One of the areas, Elementary North is one of our older buildings. We have only one gym and one multi-purpose room. In order to provide PE and physical education and health service supports to all of our students, we do utilize our cafeteria. However, our cafeteria is unavailable not only for the time that we provide lunch and breakfast services to our students, but also for an opportunity to obviously clean it and have it ready again. This year, the way we're feeling that is our kindergarten classes, 2 of them are combined. 2 teachers are working together with a larger group of kindergartners to provide PE when in one of those spaces when the cafeteria is unavailable. Sometimes students are also utilizing the hallways, some of the long hallways, in times like these, especially with this weather when we aren't able to be outside and take advantage of our field spaces. So the PE spaces is definitely a challenge here at Elementary North. We do not have a stage of any kind or any areas like that. So to do whole school assemblies, we need to do them on an angle in between our gym and our cafeteria. Also not ideal and very challenging. So our open houses and any sorts of presentations occur in that way as well.
So as you have seen, these are the constraints, and you are sitting in the Elementary South gym, So this is 3 gyms, and this space holds about 100 plus students when the PE is going on. And they still take kids from Elementary South to Aspen. The stage behind me is for their classrooms, and when you have a chance after that, I'd like you to peek your head through their band room, which is the door on the left-hand side right next to the stage. And you can imagine kids in that room playing instruments. It is a small room that has been converted. So this is just to say, the space that you are in, and when it holds all these kids and they have to do PE or music or band out there, it becomes really, really difficult. So every school has different types of capacities. So one is a code capacity. This is a capacity that indicates how many students can be in a room and maintain safe exits and entrances to the room. This capacity is larger than what we would like people to hold. This is often this is the fire code capacity. This is the number that says on an elevator, which is like 12 people, 15 people on that tiny plank, and all of us have waited when it gets certain amount of space to wait for the next elevator ride up. The educational capacity. This is based on the size of the classroom and the number of students to a teacher ratio the school assigns. At District 73, we use the 25:1 ratio. So a building with 24 classrooms has an educational capacity of 600. Program capacity. Now this is the capacity that takes into account the needs of the student in that particular classroom. So the 25:1 ratio usually fluctuates. I'm going to give you a few examples that could kind of explain how that capacity fluctuates, but this is not an exhaustive list by any means and sort. And we have teachers and educators here who could elaborate more on that if need be. So special programs like LOP, these are our kids with the most needs, such as the kids with Down syndrome. The ratio by law is 10 students to a teacher. So if we need 4 classrooms to service our kids in a building, that effectively drops the space of 4 classrooms, that is 100 students of that building down. We might not have 10 students in one grade, but to accommodate 4 students in a grade, the ratio of students in other sections of that grade does go up. Our ELL and bilingual population has increased as our enrollment has increased, and we have to provide this programming by law. According to the law, a bilingual classroom can only be 90% of the class size. So now other sections in the grade might have to accommodate larger number of students. Our special ed population, the 504 and IEPs, has also increased in the past few years, and we have to service these students. According to the law, a classroom can only have a ratio of 70:30 of special ed students in the classroom. So some sections of the grade are going to have more students than 25. And then there are kids who might need one-to-one aid. Now adding an adult or adults in a classroom that is already congested is going to, is also going to lead to more congestion in that classroom. There are different programs that impact capacity and are impacted by capacity. As your enrollment increases, the programs that are impacting are the special education programs, ELL and bilingual. They affect the capacity because there are more students who need those services, and these we have to provide these services by law. Speech and hearing, as well as occupational therapy, which is small motor skills to some of our students, as well as physical therapy, which is large motor skills. All these programs have to be provided by law, and they impact capacity because there are more students needing those services. When your enrollment increases, there are programs that are impacted by the capacity, like PE and adaptive PE, which is for our students with needs, music, band, orchestra, health and art, enrichment, extracurricular clubs and activities. We are limited because of space of what clubs and sports we can offer. We are full, and most of the people will agree with that. We had seen increased enrollment in the past few years, starting in about 2012, 2013. To determine if that was a blip or a sustained phenomena, we had Professor Casata do a demographic study in 2015-16. The Series B projects sustained growth, while Series C is an accelerated growth that we are seeing. So the Series B is the green line, the Series C is the blue line, and the yellow line is our enrollment. And if you can see, we have already crossed Series C in both 2015-16 and 2016-17. This year, we are between B and C, but that's only a difference of 44 students from last year. And the reason we are seeing a blip is because when we did this study in 2015-16, Professor Casada had assumed that the Melody Farms, Cuneo, and Woodland Chase, the three developments that we have, would be online by that time. And they have not come in online. They were delayed due to processes, and they will be coming online this summer. So that's why the blip that you see is because of delay in the new developments, and that's why there's a decrease in the enrollment of students. These are some of the developments that we currently know will be feeding into our district. So Woodland Chase, which has approximately 17 houses districted to us. Icon Builders, these are houses across from the Village Hall, that's about 10 houses. Cuneo, which is on Milwaukee, is 128 houses. Melody Farms, the condos, there are about 250 units out there. Riviera Estates, this is in Greg's Landing. It's about 30 houses are still have to be completed. They already have some that have already been built. We have about 2 parcels of land in Mundelein, which both are districted to our schools. One is a 19-acre and 11 acres. So if they build that, those students are coming to us because they are ours. Sure.
Okay, what side is this, 14?
14.
Okay.
The quarter.
The back down arrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just have to talk about that.
Changing of the guard. Sorry. I'm Robin Cleek, one of the other board members. Thanks, Sonali. Okay, so to alleviate our space, the board decided to build a kindergarten building in partnership with the Park District using our cash reserve. We're grateful to the Park District, the Village of Vernon Hills, and the library for their support in this project. The construction documents are out for bid right now, and if everything goes as planned, the building should be ready for move-in in the fall of 2019. The building will house our kindergarten students except for dual language, which will remain in the Town Line Dual Language Building. And the building will give temporary breathing room to the elementary schools, which will quickly be backfilled by things that are currently displaced right now, getting back into their proper spots, but it offers no relief to the middle schools. Okay. This is a breakdown of the operational costs of the building. It's at $590,000 per year. This includes supplies, transportation, utilities, and personnel. The operational costs of the kindergarten building will be offset from a number of sources. This includes reallocation of resources, efficiencies in facility operation, and some additional revenue from new construction and anticipated increases in the CPI. I think it's in the back. Oh, sorry. Oh, look at you saving paper. It's just one of the operational costs.
Yes.
Okay, so the next few slides are what we call backfill, which is going to show when we build the kindergarten center, what is going to be backfilled into its proper space. So this is, right now, we're looking at Aspen. 3 classrooms will be available once the kindergarten building opens. The displaced programs currently are band and orchestra lessons on the stage, ELL classes in the library. For those of you that don't know, that means English language learners. ELL classes in the computer labs, special services and teacher workrooms, and 2 special ed teachers that are currently sharing a classroom. So there are more displaced programs than the 3 classrooms that will become available by building the kindergarten building. So right now, the kindergarten building creates some space, except it quickly gets filled up. Elementary South has 5 classrooms available with the kindergarten building opening. The current displaced programs are art in a mobile trailer, health in a trailer, music on stage, band and orchestra lessons in the kitchen, special ed in the library, gym at Aspen, and 7 ELL bilingual teachers sharing 2 classrooms to service 256 kids, and special services and teacher workrooms. So there are more displaced programs than the 5 classrooms that become available by building the kindergarten center. So we'll still need more relief. Elementary North, there are 4 classrooms available by moving kindergarten to a new center. The displaced programs are special ed teachers that share classrooms. and approximately 80 students are expected from Cuneo. The board went and changed the Cuneo neighborhood to go to Elementary North. It was originally supposed to go to Town Line, but Town Line is even more cramped. So space will fill up as Cuneo enrollment continues. Town Line Elementary, 3 classrooms open up by moving the kindergarten out of there. The displaced programs are art on a cart, special ed teachers in the library, enrichment on the stage. So all classrooms will be filled with the opening of the kindergarten centers, so no space for growth. All right, the plans we're showing you are the plans that came from the core team and the work that they did with the architects about 1.5 years ago. This was after 2,500 hours worth of work and them vetting numerous options. These were the best plans that they came up with. We broke it down by building so you could kind of see where space is recommended to be added at each building. Even though these are the plans they came up with, you are still more than welcome to give feedback. It is not saying that we are married to these plans, we're absolutely not. But just to give you a framework for where we were jumping off from. The spaces are modified to bring it up to code. These additions and modifications solve our space and programming needs and account for our growth. The amount of money that will change that will increase is about 4 to 5% because of the delay in construction. The prices were originally given when we started this process in 2016. Once we know the total scope of the project from your input and support, we have our experts break down the project for us. We'll break down each phase because it doesn't have to all be done at once, so we'll have an updated cost for construction. The blue boxes are the additions, the gray are the modified or renovated spaces, and all schools will be upgraded to meet code requirements. So Aspen, there's not a lot of addition, it's mostly renovation of space and upgrade to code. Elementary South, it needs a lot of building, a lot of additions and renovations to spaces and upgrades to code. It's just an older building. The classroom, support classrooms, PE space, music area are amongst the additions that you're looking at here. So Elementary North needs a few additions and renovations. The main addition, it would be building in the EC pre-K classrooms that are currently housed at Lincoln. We currently have 187 students at Lincoln and Mundelein. We run the EC pre-K program in cooperation with Mundelein Elementary School in Fremont. If the partnership dissolves for any reason in the future, we need to accommodate those 187 students. So this is a contingency plan for that. Is this where I...
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. No, but I'm just saying, is
Yeah.
this where I am?
Yeah.
Okay. Town Line needs classroom and support classroom additions. There are fewer renovations as it is one of our newer buildings. Middle North, similar to Elementary South, Middle North needs a lot of construction. They need classroom space, music, PE, and upgrades simply due to age. And Middle School South needs some additions and upgrades. Not quite as much cramping as Middle North, but getting there. All right. Do you want, who's doing next?
I like
You want me to keep going?
If you want to.
Okay.
Is the library.
So in all the schools, you're looking at a renovated library space. These new spaces would provide space for collaboration and quiet space for individual work, ready access to technology, and inviting and engaging space. We're looking at integrating reading with communication and creation. This is a big hangout for the middle schoolers after school. A lot of them stay to do their homework in a quiet space, thank goodness. Okay, another renovation or addition would be some STEM space in all the schools. You can call it STEM, STEAM, makerspace, or science lab. It's an interdisciplinary space that accommodates a wide variety of materials and activities. It also accommodates experimentation and observation over a period of time. So just as we have dedicated spaces in the elementary schools for PE, music, and arts, this would be a space equipped with technology and tools to carry out the hands-on investigations that foster critical thinking and problem solving, which is a really big 21st century idea. I'm going to hand it back to you.
Okay, thank you. So the next is a bit of changing towards our financial picture. So in Illinois, the local revenue is the major source of funding for schools. We are heavily dependent on property taxes for our schools. Until the funding from the state changes, we are all stuck with paying for the taxes to educate our students. Where does the money go? 85% of the expenses are in salary and benefits of all the teachers and the support personnel, such as nurses, administrators, custodial staff, clerks, and the supplies needed for education, such as technology, books, and transportation, and food. Let's not forget that. How much do we spend to educate our child? We spend $11,992. We are lower than most of the surrounding districts. Most of the money per pupil goes towards the salary and benefits of all staff, followed by purchase services such as transportation, supplies, and food. The increase in consumer price index we get goes in the maintaining increases in the operational cost as the prices go up. As you see in this graph, the blue line shows the increase in revenue due to new construction. However, the red line shows the expenditure due to new students. This is the number of students that we got enrolled multiplied by that $11,992. We have spent more because of increased enrollment than we have generated in the new construction. That is the deficit of $4.2 million. We have hired new teachers and staff to maintain the class sizes and provide programming and services to our students. We have heard from people, how come the high school has money? This is why. The red boundary is our school district. That is our boundary, the area we tax. The blue is District 128, the Libertyville and Vernon Hills High School. Their EAV is 2.3 times greater than ours, so they collect more money than we do. Their enrollment is 3,270 as compared to ours at 4,344. They have fewer students with more money. Another point which a teacher made to me was, we have younger kids. When they enter kindergarten, they need help with speech, writing, hearing, motor skills, anxiety, and we provide these services. And we do a great job for our students exiting these services by the time they're ready for high school. All these services cost money. This is a generic framework, independent of the plan selected. Depending on the plan and the dollar amount will be calculated. That plan will be in phases. We cannot do the construction of everything at one time. Here are some of the things I want to say. This is a rough framework. We have a debt for the town line building that falls off in 2024. So after that, the amount per household will decrease. If the community approves, say, the $40 million plan, it will be done in phases. We have 5 years from the time of approval on the ballot to issue the bonds. So if the first phase is about $15 million, the taxes we pay will increase for only $15 million. And our taxes will increase per increment of each phase towards the total bond issuance. If we decide, say in third phase, that we don't need to build anymore because we are okay, those bonds will not be issued. We won't pay taxes on that, even though we have the permission from the community to issue taxes for that. But at every stage, there will be board meetings, there'll be open board meetings, it will be discussed of what is going to happen, what is going to be needed, do we need what we need, and the bonds will be issued accordingly to support that construction. The community does have tough decisions to make. If we stay the course, there's still the cost of portables. We will have increased class sizes as there are only so many portables that can be added. There will be impact to programming. We cannot have varied curriculum in the portables. You can ask Dr. Martin and Ms. Hunter. They have a portable for art. They don't do pottery. Some of our other schools do. So programming is affected of what you can offer in a portable. The plan we put forth is a holistic plan. However, if we decide not to do the total plan, the community should be aware that the needs of a school will be prioritized. Not all schools will receive the additions or remodel. And when we make the programming adjustments, they'll be equitable across the district. Schools are one of the biggest drivers of real estate values of homes. So we should compare our schools to our neighbors, as we will be competing with them when we have to move. We all love our children's teachers, We have some really awesome educators, and we should try to keep them with us. We should look at what increased class sizes and teaching in portables is going to do to their morale, and will we be able to attract the best to get our children ready for the future. The plan we have put forth addressed needs of all our students and distributed the resources equitable manner. That is and has been a part of our strategic plan. We wanted to ensure the community that the board and the administration will draw plans based on the dollar amount that the community supports. These decisions will be based for equity for all students. Thank you all for coming. We are going to be here. We can do the town hall if we'll answer the questions as they come forward, or we can break out in small groups and we can have sessions too as they are doing there for the people who already had watched. So if there are any questions. The information is all on the website. We have all the slides and all the information is there on our website.
It does not sound like it's on.
If the plan grows through, so if it's at 40 million, it was going to be, if I remember, at the full 42 million for a 350,000 home value, it was going to be $26 a month, so about 320 something a year was the tax increase was going to be. And that's for the whole value. When we gave out the information, we gave it for the whole value.
Okay.
Rather than break it out in phases, but the reality will be it'll be broken out in phases. And next time going forward, we will give you the phases that we are going to do it in and the value that it will be per phase.
So the plan is proposed, if everyone agrees, would be roughly $300 to $400 a year.
Yes.
Which
Okay.
won't hit all at once. It'll just hit as we
but okay,
take
but-
out the bonds.
For a
That's-
$350,000 property.
Yeah, so,
Right.
got it. And then, if I may ask another question.
Sure.
As far as the cost, you said it's about 11,000 plus per pupil?
11,992.
Does that include pension costs, or is that,
It includes everything, yes. It includes pension costs, TRS, everything, because that's salary and benefits included in that.
okay, so, but the pension I thought was coming out in state? or am I-
Whatever part comes out of the state, the rest of it is ours. We still contribute to TRS. Right, Dave?
Yes, so that number includes the employer portion requirements as far as TRS contributions and THIS contributions. What you're referring to is the state flow-through amount that is not included. That's separate. Districts don't see that. We do note it in our AFR every year as it represents the on-behalf payments that are coming through from the state.
Do you have a rough estimate how much that is per pupil, just for curiosity?
If you give me a few moments, I can look that up for you.
Great, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you could, if there's anything else you want, you could always email us and we could get, further details from Mr. Singh. Any?
Ask more questions.
Sure,
problem.
definitely.
All right, I'm sure that, the space issue is a big deal. And, but have you ever considered using current space that's available in the community? I mean, we did for the kindergarten building because we decided to share that PE space and that space there. But, that there's other space around, and I was just wondering if there's been thought about using space that we have already in the community.
So last time that the core team sat down and thought of solutions and vetted a bunch of those out, there were a couple proposals to do what's called adaptive reuse and look at other space around the community. So whether it be convert a warehouse space off of Fairway Drive, for example, take one of these big box stores and turn them into a school. They looked at that. Part of it was proposed to the community, and in the public opinion poll, if I'm correct, it didn't do well. I think there was concern with the fact that most of those types of spaces don't have windows, so any natural light would simply be skylight type of light. I don't know 100% what all the, concern was. I think some of them were too much space, some were too little space. There's high rents that you have to pay with those. So there were some concerns, but I don't think it's off the table. I think we can still consider, because of course there's probably new options out there now that weren't available when this was looked at a couple years ago. So I think it's still in the realm of consideration for us to look at doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the old fitness club.
Yeah, Bally's.
The Valley Fitness Club, you have where Wicks Lumber used to be.
Right, yeah, no,
That's all
there's a
the-
ton and there will be more, yeah.
I'm just saying that, those should be considered and looked at.
Yeah.
Especially if you're asking the community to sit there and shell out more money for this on the taxpayer. I can't believe it's 89% comes from us, but I know that good schools do improve real estate, but it sure hits us hard.
Yes.
It's a tough decision.
It is.
But we do appreciate your feedback, and I think the next meeting we have is a working meeting.
It's a working.
So you'll be able to hear us discuss the feedback options that have been given.
And our architects and our construction managers will be here to help us guide through it, because they have the expertise of knowing, of what can fit in what space and all the requirements that can go in there to make it fit according to the code. And
Well, I know years ago when you acquired that Children's World daycare center, that became the administrative office.
Right.
So, and that was right next to the school, so that was really, a viable option. But of course, that was acquiring the building, so I don't want to pay rental either. Renting is not that.
Is there anybody else?
anybody else? Hi.
Thanks for the presentation. That's great.
Thank you.
You mentioned code capacity and fire codes.
Yes.
So if nothing changes and those changes aren't made, enrollment keeps going up, do you anticipate when we would start hitting fire code safety violations? And if that happened, then what would happen? Would the district shrink or?
No, we would put portables to kind of, as much as we can, and hope that we're not going to get to that capacity where, I don't think we would ever, from what I remember having my conversations with the architects, where I don't think our concern is the fire code capacity, but putting, even if I can put 35 kids in a classroom, I would be okay by the fire code, but I don't think I would get a teacher to teach 35 kids in a classroom. So that is a bigger concern to us than how many kids can we fit in a classroom right now. And we wouldn't want to do that just for the educational of our students.
But yes, I think the answer is portables if we were to really hit that fire code number. But I think even with Casarda's big projections, we're not up against fire code.
No, yeah.
So.
But portables and cutting of programming would be one of the ways to do it, to manage this thing.
And then I'm not doubting the impact it would have on property values. I believe in that as well. Maybe give you some more ammunition. Have you seen any cases like that in communities, overcrowded school communities, where property values have decreased? Are we able to point to some examples of that occurring already somewhere else?
I don't have an example on top of my head, but we could definitely look for some. I'm sure in this, or even around us, we could find something that we could tell you, what it is. Like, I know a lot of the schools just passed referendums. Like Lake Zurich passed about a $76 million referendum, and high schools, and so I could definitely look at some of the other numbers and get back to you. If you leave your name and stuff, we could, or even at the next meeting, we'll acknowledge what some of our examples are, but I don't have any on top of my head.
But it's a great question, and I think it's a really interesting thing to look at, because if you look at, there's been a couple examples in recent history of districts that have gone out for referendums, it failed, there being a lot of uncertainty in the area, and their housing market's kind of stalling. People are waiting to see what's going to happen with the schools, and so I'm sure it has impact, but I think that's a really interesting thing to look at, see what that does. It's like, in my own anecdotal experience, it seems like if a school goes from, if a school improves over time, it takes a really long time for people to recognize that and catch up to it. But if a school has things taken away or adds portables, much faster for people to look at the negative than to look at the positive. So that would be a concern, but it's definitely, I think, worth examining what's happened in other communities.
Right, so some real examples might help straighten that.
Yeah,
case.
for sure.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Or we could close the meeting and we'll stay here as long as anybody wants to, answer any questions that you might. Yeah, just a second. Yeah, go ahead.
I suppose I should have said, my name's Roger. So as far as building on your point, what local school districts are like role models in that regard, where they have a good investment in the space and you can kind of point to as this is what best in class looks like?
Best in class. Lincolnshire just built because they were feeling the overcrowding, so they just built. Libertyville used to have a few portables that they moved out of some time ago, so I'm trying to think of some that would be at.
I don't know if Libertyville's was an overcrowding issue. I think it might have been a massive renovation that they did.
But could be. I'm trying to think of any that I know.
I mean,
You know-
a lot of our districts are having similar challenges like we are. Like she was saying, Lincolnshire just built.
Lake Zurich is building.
Lake Zurich
Right.
is building through referendum. 102 Aptekissick Trip, they are building. There's so much residential housing coming in all over the area that a lot of them are in the same boat we are.
I think when you say best in class, and I might have a different idea in my head of what's best in class, right? But if you look at what's best in class and where people usually sit there and go, they've got high proficiency ratings and they've got, good employee retention rates and all that jazz. Lake County and Northern Cook County really have a lot of shining examples of those types of districts, us being one of them. But I think sometimes where the comparison comes in is people say, well, Libertyville's right next door and they have this and we don't. And this one's right next door, Lincolnshire's right next door and they have this and we don't. I think a lot of it, you have to look at the needs that are coming from their population and their student body. Is one of our triumphs is a diverse population. It's something that I value. It's one of the reasons that I moved back here. And I really like that. With a diverse population comes a diverse set of needs for the students, which means resources are managed differently. So if you have a super homogeneous population, their resources can be put towards a different effort than where our resources go, and ours are just as important and just as valuable, but it is going to look different when you look at things like the sheer number of kids in a room. Well, some of that happens because you can't fill up a room that's dedicated to, let's say, bilingual with kids that aren't bilingual if what they're learning is a different language at the time. So you end up having space that's potentially a little bit underutilized but is still necessary and gets our kids where they need to be by the time they leave 8th grade. So, I think sometimes the best in class is a strange, I mean, I know what you're saying, but I hear people all the time compare us to surrounding districts, and I think to try to find one that is sort of similar to us from not only an economic standpoint, but a demographic standpoint and all that other stuff, it's hard.
Referring more to the space and the planning and, obviously, more defined.
I think the best one would be to maybe Lake Zurich because they just passed a 76 to update their facilities, add more classrooms, renovate it to modernize them because they had old buildings too. And if we compare ourselves to even just Libertyville, Libertyville's low-income population is at 5%. We are at 28. Their ELL bilingual is same thing in the 5, 10, and we are at 14 with our special ed and, in the higher ranges of that. So as Robin was saying, it's it requires needs of students to be met a bit differently, and they are 5 minutes away from us. So, so it just is just what your population and the needs are. It just really dictates what you offer your kids, what you have to offer, because some of it is requirement. We can't get away from that. I mean, we do half days and we provide lunches. We have to, because that's our free and reduced. We have to provide lunches if the kids are at school. So it's just a requirement. Can't get away from it. So we're going to close out the meeting, and then we'll stay here, like I said, as long as you need for us to answer any questions, anything.
And if you think of anything after you leave here tonight, please email the board so that during the next working meeting we can discuss.
And we'll discuss everything. At the next working meeting, we'll go through most of the questions that people had, like examples of real estate where the taxes went down or adaptive reuse. We'll bring up all the questions for the plans, ideas, things that were not clear. We'll go through all of them before we start working out. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I second.
Motion by Julie, seconded by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned at 8:15. And we'll stay here as long as,